right, welcome back to the 11th edition of the Kansas City Commercial Real Estate Market Pulse, sponsored by Exchange Commercial Real Estate. This is a special Thanksgiving edition, and we are in for a treat today. Very excited, and I will introduce our guest, Ryder Harris, here very soon. But hopefully, everyone is taking a little bit of time this week to reflect and to think about what they are grateful for, what they're thankful for. I know I have my children doing that on a regular basis, and it's extremely encouraging to hear what they continue to say to me on a daily basis. And I love this period of time because not only is it a good time for reflection, it's a great time for separation. And that's exactly what we are speaking about today: how to separate yourself from competition and utilizing artificial intelligence and cutting edge technology to do so. So let's go ahead and get started. As you all know, our aim is to bring the most up-to-date market experience and intelligence, as well as updates on the Kansas City commercial real estate market. But our most exciting and probably most watched episodes are definitely when we have expert guests coming on. And so it's our job and our goal every single week or every other 2 weeks to be evaluating what that landscape looks like. And many of you have reached out to me asking me for more information about artificial intelligence and how that could shape the landscape of commercial real estate brokerage. So that's what we're going to continue to do today, is giving you guys an update and really giving you some, what I like to say, skilling up of knowledge in regards to how to utilize this technology, and having a great conversation around how it may shape the future and the landscape of commercial real estate. I am so excited right now with our team. This is our team: Katie, Micah, Max, Nick, Chad, Nathan, and myself. In the last month, we have submitted over 9 proposals to either property owners or LOIs on or executing purchase agreements on real estate. This is really encouraging from 2 reasons. One, obviously, we want to see progress and momentum from the brokerage side and the components of that, but also it's anecdotally giving us a lot of encouragement going into 2025. Now that the election is over, people are really starting to hone in on year-end planning, as well as setting up their goals for 2025. And those 9 proposals amount to about $18 million of commercial real estate that we are currently working on. So if you have any interest in Kansas City commercial real estate, whether that be land, multifamily, retail, industrial, medical office, we definitely can support you. If you're a landowner, we can help you do what we call property performance audits, which is just an elevated broker opinion of value, but we really dive into return on equity metrics utilizing our AI-powered underwriting software. If you are an investor and you're working on a 1031 exchange, or you have sold a property here recently and you're sitting on some capital that you would like to learn about the Kansas City market, we're your team. We can support you. We work on both sides of transactions and have done close to $500 million of commercial real estate in Kansas City now. Now, without further ado, I am super stoked to introduce Ryder. Now, I'm going to say a couple things before I do, but artificial intelligence, in my opinion, isn't changing the fundamentals of commercial real estate brokerage or investment. The relationships, the market knowledge, the deal making remain at the heart of the business. What's changing is how all of this is being done. AI is streamlining processes. We are able to uncover insights faster. We're enabling our brokers to focus on what they do best, which is advising clients and closing deals. The brokers and firms that embrace, and the investors that embrace artificial intelligence today, are going to be the ones who stay ahead of the curve, leveraging this transformative tool to gain a competitive edge in a rapidly evolving industry. And today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Ryder Harris. He's the founder of GoBananas.AI, which is a cutting-edge AI consulting firm helping businesses unlock the power of artificial intelligence to drive growth and efficiency. So Ryder and his team specialize in equipping businesses, including sales and commercial real estate professionals, with the strategies and the tools to seamlessly integrate AI into your operations. That's a key component we're going to talk about today. GoBananas.AI is leading the charge in AI innovation. And so their expertise is reshaping the way industries, including commercial real estate, think about productivity and technology. So, Ryder, while commercial real estate is an industry where many of us fall into our roles, I think that just reading about you and learning about you, you've taken a little bit of a different path by actively harnessing the power of artificial intelligence to transform how business is done, not just in commercial real estate, but across industries, right? And so before we dive into the specifics of what you're going to cover and talking about how AI is shaping real estate, man, we'd love for you to just share your story. How did you decide to get involved with AI, and what led you to see its potential in real estate and business, which is, a field that often relies on tradition and human expertise?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, thank you so much for having me. I graduated from Mizzou in 2021, and I took an inside sales job at a Kansas City-based fintech startup called C2FO.
Mm,
And from there, I did a year and a half as an SDR, and then got promoted to inside sales rep. And right as I got promoted, that was when ChatGPT kind of got thrown onto my desk.
okay.
I have two brothers. I have an older brother and a younger brother. Younger brother still in school, older brother obviously out of school. And I thought I was the savvy brother, but they were both telling me about this Chat GPT thing, and I'm like, how have I not already tried this? I
Sure.
thought I was the tech savvy one. So I started messing around with Chat GPT, just having it generate business ideas. And before I even had an actual product in mind, it was already generating an exit strategy for my hypothetical business.
Mm,
So that's when I really realized the power of it. And that's when it
yeah,
kind of clicked in my head. And, I thought instead of just messing around with ChatGPT, how about I take it to work? So then I'm starting as an inside sales rep, and I'm having it help me with emails or cold email templates. I'm
yeah,
having it write my cold call scripts. I'm having it help me overturn sales objections. And for anyone selling anything out there, that objections are the thing that just absolutely kill deals. So whenever I really found that use case is when I got super excited. And then you move on to social media content and meeting outlines. And I just really realized how obviously this thing isn't Superman. It's not going to automate your job. And like you said at the beginning of this, it's not changing the fundamentals of how you do the job. But it is a little AI assistant or intern that you can lean on for certain things. So when I really realized that I had something, and that this is something I wanted to pursue, is when I started to have friends reach out to me offering to pay me for a one-on-one or some type of consultation. And then I also had team members internally asking me for assistance with, how can I use AI? How can I have it help me with social media? Because social media is obviously a huge thing.
yeah.
And that's when I realized I had something. So I went out to an AI conference in Los Angeles in April of 2023 and was inspired, met a lot of people, made great connections, and figured, what, let's take the leap and see how many people we can help implement AI across the board. Because so many people, when they hear AI, it's a buzzword right now, and they're a little bit intimidated by it. So I take pride in educating people in different businesses, different industries, and kind of helping them understand that it's just a tool you can lean on to help you get more work done. It's not something that's a robot that's going to come take your job, at
Mhm.
least not anytime soon. So I've really had a lot of fun traveling the country over the past year and a half, helping businesses, speaking at events, conferences, working with different associations in real estate, mortgage, property management, all over the place. So it's been a grind, but it's been a blast.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you for sharing that. What are you going to cover today? Like, what are we going to get out of today's presentation?
Yeah, so what I want to do a deep dive on is ChatGPT. So ChatGPT is the Michael Jordan, if you will, of these AI tools, and it's the one that everyone knows, and it's my personal favorite. There's a bunch of alternatives out there. Meta has an AI. There's even Musk just so he's got his own language model. He is the one that is the smartest, value their vision more than the other right now. So I'm going to do a dive on ChatGPT, it look into that super complex complicated. And prompt engineering, we just have GPT prompts. And it sounds weird to say.
Hey, Ryder, give us 1 second. I think that we're having some audio issues on your end. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, it seems like it might be coming in from your headsets or some transference or something like that. You may just try closing them and putting them back in. I think we just got like a bad connection potentially. Hold on 1 second. We just got a little bit of audio visual issue that we're going to work through. Hey, in the meantime, while Ryder gets that figured out, if you guys have questions around AI, how it's going to be implemented, what Ryder is doing with businesses, make sure to drop it in the chat. If you're listening on LinkedIn or you're watching on LinkedIn, pop the questions into our chat as well as YouTube. I'll be monitoring those and we'll have a Q&A session here at the end as well. All right, Ryder, did we get that figured out?
Yeah, I took my headphones out. Can you hear me okay through the laptop?
So much better.
Perfect. Those dang AirPods. You'd think I'm the technology guy. I should have all this stuff figured out, but we always run into these speed bumps.
No worries at all.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So prompt engineering, back onto that, like I said, it's just how you structure your input when you're using ChatGPT. And the art or science of prompting an AI model is when you can really get the output that is high quality and saving you a bunch of time, instead of just typing in one sentence to ChatGPT saying, write me a LinkedIn post about commercial real estate. I mean, it can kind of just go any way. It can write about a bunch of different things. So we'll talk about honing in on our ChatGPT prompts to make sure we're getting the most out of it. And then I want to look into just practical use cases of how it's being used in commercial real estate. One, how people who work in commercial real estate are using AI models like ChatGPT, and then also how, office buildings and businesses are starting to implement AI. And then at the very end, I want to go over some other AI tools. ChatGPT is great, but there's plenty of other free AI tools out there that can provide a lot of value. So I want to do a deep dive on those. And then I'll end with just a little bit of advice and kind of my message to anyone that's a little intimidated by AI or hasn't gotten started yet and kind of wants to, needs to be pushed forward a little bit. So hopefully I can inspire some people to get started.
Beautiful. All right. Looking forward to it, man. Well, what the heck is ChatGPT? Because, look, man, I've tested out a lot. I think I was a pretty early adopter of ChatGPT. I have been utilizing it for writing social media for a long time, but now I'm diving into custom GPTs in the commercial real estate space that are commercial real estate analysts or commercial real estate legal advice. And I am turning around answers I can go through a close to $1 billion development and get what I call a wild ass guess or a WAG in 2 to 3 hours utilizing computing. Now, what I found, I need to double check the numbers on the project, but man, the amount of information that it can really put together and help me understand the back of the napkin math on a really large deal is really phenomenal. So, but let's talk about that. Like, what is ChatGPT and what the heck does even GPT stand for?
Well, I think there's no better way to answer that question than to directly ask ChatGPT. So let's look at the definition that it generated for us. So ChatGPT is a conversational model based on the GPT, the generative pre-trained transformer architecture. It is designed to understand and generate human-like text based on the prompts it receives. The model is trained on a diverse range of internet text and is capable of performing tasks that range from answering questions and providing explanations to generating creative content. Now, that was kind of just a bunch of word salad. That was a bunch of stuff together. So that was a little bit of an expert definition right there. So let's look at the second one. ChatGPT is like a super smart talking robot on the computer. Imagine you have a toy robot that you can ask questions or tell to write stories, and it does it just like a real person would. This robot lives inside the computer and helps people by talking to them, answering their questions, and even helping them write things like emails or stories. Now, these were two definitions. They both kind of got to the same point, but they explained it a different way. Mm-hmm. So if we look at the next slide, then we can kind of decide, what was the difference between those two? And as you can see, the first one, so I had ChatGPT give us an expert definition of itself. So it assumed that we had some knowledge when it came to things like, tech, when it came to AI, when it came to software development. It kind of assumed that we understood the industry specific jargon. And then if we look at the second example, I had ChatGPT generate its definition at a third grade level. So this may be a little bit of an extreme example, but I work a lot with people in, like I had said, mortgage, real estate, all over the place. And sometimes when you're working with someone that doesn't have too much knowledge in that space, or like in mortgage, for example, when you're a first time home buyer or if you're a first time investor, there are some terms, some acronyms that you're not really familiar with. So I've had a lot of people that I've worked with translate things into a fifth grade reading level, a sixth grade reading level, because maybe third grade's a little too far. We don't want to make anyone feel stupid by doing that. But one of my favorite entrepreneurs slash authors, his name is Alex Hormozy. He's written a couple books. I'm sure many people watching are familiar with him. And he's always made very complex things very simple to understand. And I've never really understood how. And then it came out, he said in either a tweet or on a TikTok, that all of his books are written at a fifth grade reading level. So this is just a way that you can enhance communication, make things make sense, mitigate the risk of confusion, because that's always something that's important. We don't want to confuse. We want to enhance communication, because when communication is clear, that's when we have the best chance to close deals and to move forward and make progress on whatever we're working on. So
Yeah.
I would feel like this is a super powerful example.
It absolutely is. And if Katie is watching, when we started to put together slides on explaining return on equity in a really advanced level, it got really confusing really quickly. And so I actually did this previously on previous market pulse, where I give the expert definition of return on equity, and then I break it down, and I asked it to explain it to me like a fifth grader, and it broke it down into the ability to think about a lemonade stand and the money that it took to buy the sugar, the lemons, the water, the pitcher, the cups. And it was a really interesting way, but I'm glad to see that you did this, because I've done this previously as well, and it really resonated with people.
Yeah, it's and it really helps paint the picture of also how powerful this thing can be. Taking the same definition, the same type of wording, the same paragraph, and just make it make sense to different audiences. So, I challenge anyone that's watching to try this in their respective industry, especially when you're dealing with, a first-time prospect or someone that's very new. Maybe it's even someone that you just hired and they're straight out of college, or they're coming from a different industry. You can kind of use a tool like this to help train them and help them understand things better, because they're not going to be up to speed with all of the jargon and all of these, super specific terms. So I think this is a really good example that just further showcases the power of these models.
Absolutely. Great example.
So let's look at why this thing is so popular and why, it's all over social media. It's all over the news. It's in the newspaper. These companies are raising billions and billions of dollars. So number one, and the most eye-catching thing, is its human-like interactions. So whenever you're interacting with ChatGPT or any conversational AI model, I challenge you to treat it like you're communicating with an assistant or an intern. And it may feel that way because you're just typing words into a computer that may seem like a robot, but that's the way that it understands, and that's the way that it generates output. So by treating it like an intern or an assistant, I think that's when you get the most value out of it, because that's also how it works, and that's how it understands information. And like we had said earlier on, this thing isn't Superman yet. It's not going to automate every single thing that you have to do and do all of your work for you and communicate with all of your clients automatically. This is a tool that you can just lean on to cut down on some of the busy work and just get more work done and be more productive. And that's what we're all shooting for here. In any industry, no matter what job we're doing, we all want to find ways to cut down on the busy work, and not only cut down on it and have it be a lackluster product. We also want to enhance productivity and also have it be a product that would have maybe been something better than we would have come up with. And, whether I like to admit it or not, this thing is going to write better social media posts than me. It's going to write better emails. It's going to come up with better call scripts. It's going to overturn sales objections better than I am, probably. So, this is just a cool thing that you can lean on. And it is kind of like having your own robot inside of your computer. So we also look at versatility. Sorry about that. We also look at versatility and scalability, 24/7 availability. And it's kind of a gift or it can kind of be a gift or a curse the way that I explain my mind. But there are times where I want to partner with a new AI tool or I want to come up with a new process, kind of something different that I want to do in my business when I'm, laying down in bed and it's 11 p.m. and I'm just thinking about it. Instead of letting a new idea kind of stew in my mind or not really act upon it, you can open up Chat GPT, whether it's the mobile app or the computer, and you can have a conversation with it.
Yeah.
And this, in my opinion, and Sam Altman, the current CEO, or he was the CEO of OpenAI, got fired, then got brought back on. He did a podcast with Lex Friedman, and they asked him, what's your favorite use case for Chat GPT? And he said brainstorming, idea generation, just kind of helping visualize, all of the ideas, all of your thought processes by having a conversation with this super smart, robot, if you will. So it's 24/7 availability is something that used to not be a thing because early days of Chat GPT, they would have so much traffic that they would have to, kind of shut some people out and say, we're experiencing high volume right now. We're sorry.
I remember.
Yeah, you're not able to access. And I remember that. And I was at work and, I had just discovered all of the power of Chat GPT. And I'm like, man, I just started using this so much and found so much value. And now it's shutting me out. So luckily they've, curbed that. And it's 24/7 availability is something that is super important. And then we look at its consistency, its ease of integration, and its continuous learning. It's continuous learning, its ability to continue to learn from your conversations. So now there's a memory aspect within ChatGPT where it remembers if you tell it your job title, if you're working on a certain project, what industry you're in, what you're working toward, all kinds of things like that. So then ChatGPT can continue to tailor its output and tailor its conversations directly to you instead of just being super broad.
Yeah. Well, a couple things that I want to point out was as I was utilizing this yesterday, working through a proposal, I said that it's powerful what you can get done by augmenting your thinking through real-time computing utilizing AI. It's like my brain on steroids. And it was really powerful to think about it like that, right? And the other one is one of my favorite prompts, and I know that you're going to get to that right now, but one of my favorite prompts, because since I've been using this, when did it come out, Ryder? Was it a year and a half ago?
November of 2022, I believe.
All right, so it's been out for a couple of years. I maybe have been using it for a year and a half. Well, through all of my interactions with it, I saw someone post on LinkedIn, this is an interesting thing to ask ChatGPT. It's like, hey, you have interacted with me for 15 months, for 6 months, for 3 months, whatever. Tell me something I don't know about myself that's interesting, right? And wow, the responses that I got from utilizing that prompt was really powerful. And not just from a brainstorming standpoint, I do think that it can really help you in regards to learning more about yourself.
Absolutely. I remember seeing that prompt go viral on LinkedIn and TikTok. So it was super interesting for everyone to try that out because many people had no idea how much information was being stored. And that's also something that you can go in and edit. If you don't want ChatGPT to store all of your information, then you can wipe its memory. But I personally think when it has that knowledge of you and who you are and what you're trying to accomplish, I think it is really cool. And I asked it actually the other night. I was like, based off of everything we've talked about, what are my 3 major goals in life? And for it to generate what it did, it's just it further demonstrated how impressive the technology is and its memory retention and everything. So I think that's only going to get improve more and more, and it's going to be able to understand you more and more, and it's just going to become, I think everyone's going to have their own little AI assistant at some point, whether that's Chat GPT, whether it's another startup that does that. I think just having these tools to lean on and kind of being a crutch is something that is just providing so much value, and I really hope that everyone has a takeaway today. If you haven't tried these tools, that you do try it out and just see where you can plug it in.
Absolutely, man. I just had to go through, I opened up my ChatGPT app and knowing what you do about myself, what are my main 3 goals in life? Number 1, building a lasting legacy through professional success and innovation. Number 2, creating stability and balance for your family. And number 3, personal growth, and mastery. And that's a really great way to sum that up. So I know our slide right now is talking about prompt engineering, man. What is that? And what do we need to do about prompt engineering? Because so many people say, well, I'm not getting the responses, or I'm not getting the answer that I'm asking. I'm like, you have to have a conversation with it. But tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and I'll never forget. I was out in Philadelphia when I started the business, and was working with some of my AI buddies, and we were all just in the same apartment, the same house. Kind of, when you surround yourself with a culture like that, you get a lot more work done. So I remember coming back, and it was just in time for the NFL draft that was in Kansas City, and I was in downtown KC. I had run into some friends, and one of my friends was like, "Hey, man, like, been following it closely. That's really exciting." He's like, our business is trying to implement chat GPT. He's like, we're trying to use it, but it's not really doing what we want. And I go, okay, it's not doing what you want. I was like, are you telling it exactly what you want it to do? And that person was like, well, no, I didn't really think we had to do that. And in my head, I'm like, okay, so it's not widely understood how much context you have to give to chat GPT. You can't just say, write a LinkedIn post about real estate, because then it can go all over the place. It doesn't know if it should be professional, if it should be casual, if it should have a call to action, if it should, include relevant hashtags, if there should be an image attached. So the way we get high quality output from ChatGPT is high quality input, and we do that through prompt engineering. So the definition from ChatGPT again is the art of asking the right questions or giving the right instructions to ChatGPT or any conversational AI model you use to get the best possible answers or results. So we have to do our part and give ChatGPT all of the ammunition that it could need to make sure that it can generate high quality, tailored output instead of just super bland output that we can tell was clearly generated by a robot, because then that ends up not really even saving us time. It kind of wastes our time if we use ChatGPT and it doesn't give us something of value. So one quote that I hope everyone can learn and kind of stick in their memory is, your output is only as good as your input. And I used to think that I coined this phrase. So whenever I would put up these slides, I used to put my name next to it, and then I started seeing it all over LinkedIn. And I didn't have the influence at the time, so there's no way that someone took that from me. So I just removed my name. But that doesn't take away from how important and how impactful that quote is. Your output is only as good as your input. So we have to make sure that we're honing in on our prompts.
Most definitely.
So the way that we do that is a super, super simple 4-step process. Now, as we move on and you start to use ChatGPT more and more, you'll figure out what works more specifically for you. But I think this is a very good structure to use if you're either starting out or if you've even been using it for a while and are just looking to get higher quality output from ChatGPT. So our 4 steps, and this is just 4 sentences, which ends up being 1 paragraph. We're going to assign ChatGPT a role. So when we assign ChatGPT a role, we can tell it to act as an expert in multiple different industries or fields. So working in commercial real estate, you can tell ChatGPT to act as a commercial real estate veteran with 10 years of experience. And essentially, when we're assigning a role, we're taking a hat, we're writing expertise on it, and then we're putting that hat on ChatGPT. And that helps kind of hone in its vision on the specific information that we want ChatGPT to focus on, because ChatGPT is trained on hundreds of thousands of hours of YouTube video transcriptions. So we don't want it to write a LinkedIn post about underwater basket weaving when we're working on commercial real estate or any specific topic. So think of it like we're at the bowling alley. When you're bowling, when we're assigning ChatGPT a role, it's like we're putting the bumpers up. We're just really helping ChatGPT hone in and focus exactly on the information we need, and we can have it think from a very unique perspective. So I'm always curious of if people are already doing this, because I know if you haven't been watching YouTube videos or if you're not consuming content on social media about ChatGPT, everyone always comes up with their own unique prompting structure. So it's always interesting to see if people are assigning roles. So I'm actually curious, Logan, is this something you've been doing?
Absolutely. So 2 ways I've done this. One, I have assigned it by saying, please think through or act like Ray Dalio or Warren Buffett or anybody like that, right? One of my favorite authors and thought leaders. That's one way. The other way is I've been really trying to test out these specific custom GPTs through the marketplace on ChatGPT with limited success, I would say. I think there's two that I really like, and one of them is called Commercial Real Estate Analyst. The other one is actually trained on Jeremy Miner's NEPQ sales framework. The other one, so there's more than two. So the other one is trained on Hormazi's books.
Okay, that's one that I was going to bring up at the very end. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that. It's trained on his leads and offers, right?
Exactly. So I like that one a lot. And there's one other one that I use on a regular basis, which is helps with my social media because it's trained on Justin Welsh, who I think is a top LinkedIn creator. So I found a lot of success in those, but sometimes it's just easier just to go to the regular GPT, the Chat GPT framework. And I'm like, well, is it not trained on all these other things? Maybe that's a question for you here. What is the difference between these custom GPTs and just using the broad regular framework?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because when the GPT store came out, obviously I was super excited because I'm big into Chat GPT. So, I was trying all of them and I was making all of them. And it got to the point where, sometimes I was using a custom GPT and it was almost too honed in on something to where I wanted to have it do a different task and it wouldn't do it as well as just regular Chat GPT because it was so honed in on, a certain amount of context or a certain use case.
Sure.
So I think they are trained on the same things. And that's why I think custom GPTs can be fantastic. It can have browsing capabilities. You can have DALL-E generate images for you, and they're awesome. And I think one of the biggest pluses with custom GPTs is when you can give it knowledge through PDFs. So maybe you upload your company's FAQs, and then you have a GPT where maybe you get a question and you're stumped. You're not really sure what the answer is.
Yeah.
You get it from a customer. You can go into that custom GPT and you can just ask the question, and it's trained on all of your FAQs. It can maybe be trained on, just all of the information about your website, a lot of stuff like that. And then it can answer questions for you. So instead of bugging a manager or a director or an owner, your company can build a custom GPT that's trained on, company information, and then you can interact with it from that standpoint. But I'm on board with you. There are several custom GPTs that provide a lot of value, but I've found myself, since I'm kind of used to the custom GPTs and the GPT store isn't so new anymore, that I usually just use regular old Chat GPT more. But I do think everyone should at least try creating a custom GPT to see how it works and see how it can specialize in one certain field.
Very good answer. Yeah. And that's what I found as well. And a lot of times I will actually move one response to the other one and make sure that, to a different thread to see, because I don't know necessarily if they speak to each other, because sometimes I'll ask it a question and it says, no, I don't have access to it. So I think that if you get off on custom GPTs, it might not be connected necessarily to the regular Chat GPT and it doesn't update the memory. So that might be a tip here if that's correct, right? Or is that correct? I don't know.
I believe so. I scrolled through my Chat GPT's memory early last week, and I haven't found anything that was a conversation with a custom GPT that got stored into the memory. So, I mean, there's a chance that I could be wrong, but I'm almost positive that it doesn't store memory when you're using custom GPT.
Yeah, so that's something to keep in mind, right? Is like if you're using a custom GPT, you may have to copy a response and move it over to another one. And that's been my workflow, but it doesn't take much time and it's really easy to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. So after we assign the role, and that's just one sentence, super simple, we're going to move on to context. So we're going to provide ChatGPT with a little bit of context here. The nice thing is you don't have to give it your whole life story. One, because it already has that memory aspect and it knows some things about you. But two, there's a later step where we're going to provide ChatGPT with a lot more context without having to type out 2, 3, 4 paragraphs. Because at the end of the day, we're trying to save time here. So if we're dedicating 10 minutes to a prompt, then, and let's say it's for a social media post, maybe you could have already written that post out by yourself in 10 minutes instead of spending 10 minutes on the prompt. So we want to be efficient here, but we also don't want to get greedy and get tired of prompting ChatGPT for more than 30 seconds because we know how ChatGPT works. So with context in my opinion, we're just going to say who we are and what we're looking to accomplish. So I could just say, I'm the founder of GoBananas.AI, and I'm looking to enhance my social media presence. Super, super simple. One sentence saying who we are, what we're looking to accomplish. Step number 3 is when we're going to give ChatGPT the command. So this is exactly what we're trying to have ChatGPT execute for us. And we do want to be specific here. So instead of saying write a LinkedIn post, we could say write a professional toned LinkedIn post about commercial real estate so I can inform the investors in my audience. So that way we're adding a little bit more context within the command instead of just being super basic to ChatGPT, because then, like I said, when we were talking about the assigning the role step, it can kind of go a bunch of different ways. And we just really want to make sure that we're honing in on ChatGPT as much as we possibly can. So when we're giving the command, again, it can just be one sentence and we're going to be as specific as possible. And then last, and this is by far the most important step, is we're going to tell ChatGPT to ask us questions. And when I discovered this one, this was an absolute game changer for me. I know there are some people out there that do it. I also know there are people that have never tried this, and I truly recommend this step to absolutely anyone. Because when we tell ChatGPT to ask us questions, it analyzes our role, it analyzes the context, and then it analyzes the command we gave it. And then it thinks to itself, okay, what more context, information, ammunition do I need from the user so I can carry out the task that it gave it? So when we're telling ChatGPT to ask us questions, we're going to get high quality, tailored output specifically to us instead of something that is just super bland that, like I had said previously, looks like a robot had written it.
Absolutely, man. Well, I just want to make sure that people really hone in on these 4 things, right? Because I think this is something that a lot of people miss out on, right? To ask you questions, because and I found actually through some of these custom GPTs, when you start working with them, they will ask you questions. Like the Hormazi one for sure asks you questions around that, and it helps, right? And then not only that, it will absolutely give you the suggested questions underneath the conversation that you're having. And that can really be helpful to lead the conversation one way or the other. So assign a role, give context, give a command, tell ChatGPT to ask you questions. We're highlighting that right now on the screen. The layout did not show up very well, but those are very, very good feedback items here, Ryder. I like that a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you had just touched on with the custom GPT, whoever built that did a really good job of putting that in the instructions of the custom GPT. And for those people out there that don't know what custom GPTs are or haven't built one yet, it may sound super complicated, like you're creating your own AI model. You literally just have to type in words and give it written instructions. So there's no coding needed. You don't need to be a software engineer. You don't need to be a AI machine learning engineer. You literally are just giving it written instructions. So whenever creating a custom GPT, I would always recommend, maybe you could put this process in there. Or like Logan had just said with the Hormozi GPT, it's built and it's programmed to ask questions, because context is king when we're using ChatGPT or any conversational AI model. So this has been, in my opinion, the most efficient way to provide it with as much context as we need.
I got a quick question for you before we move on to this example that you've got. Do you think that we may have Chat GPT influencers at some point? Like Justin Welsh has his own, Jeremy Miner has his own, Alex Hormazi has his own. Do you think there might be a way for people to monetize that at some point? I'm just curious. The idea just came to my mind, and maybe I should ask ChatGPT that. But we're utilizing their information, right? I don't know where they got that information, but I don't know where ChatGPT got that information. But like, I just wonder if somebody's like, yeah, I'm going to be a ChatGPT influencer at some point, and so many people are going to be conversating with my GPT, and I'm going to monetize that at some point. Like, is that in talks right now? I'm just curious.
Well, I do know that OpenAI, which is the company that made ChatGPT, for anyone that doesn't know, OpenAI does offer monetization opportunities for custom GPTs that get used a lot. So the custom GPTs that are ranked at the top of the GPT store, I believe they do a profit share with them.
Okay.
And I don't know exactly how that works. I've created a couple and honestly haven't put a bunch of effort in it. because I have been building them more specifically for other companies.
Sure.
So I've built a couple. I have like a sales objection expert and all kinds of stuff like that. But I mean, yeah, you also maybe creating it of yourself. Yes, like if I were to make a custom GPT that's the Ryder Harris custom GPT and I put everything I know about AI in there, then I think so. But I also think the people are kind of walking a fine line that are creating custom GPTs of other people, because I don't know how the IP works when it comes to something like that, but I think that's something that you should be weary of. But yeah, like you had brought up, I think that's a great idea of creating a custom GPT that gives all of your expertise, and then maybe selling it, hosting it somewhere on some website, and then selling access via subscription, or every time someone uses it, they have to pay something. I mean, I think that's a pretty solid idea. So if you've got some valuable information out there, that might be something to look into.
Yeah, well, I just asked ChatGPT that way, and it says that the emergence of AI generated influencers is already underway. So it is in the works. So very, very interesting. Look at that. You heard it here first. Just like Martha Stewart says, every single day you need to learn something new. Maybe this is a new business for you. If you've got some extremely valuable information, you can build a custom ChatGPT. And after this call, I'm going to start building my own to try to figure out how to monetize.
I might have to do the same. But so I know that, when we looked at the 4-step process, it might be hard to visualize how an actual prompt would look. So this is just a super basic example. We'll tell ChatGPT to act as a social media expert. I work in commercial real estate and am looking for assistance with my LinkedIn presence. Please generate a LinkedIn content calendar for me to follow for the next 2 weeks. So I always like using social media as a good example, because
Yeah.
a lot of people see social media content creation as a burden. It's something that can take a lot of time. It's something that, you struggle to come up with ideas. You struggle to come up with, maybe you're trying to get on TikTok, but you struggle to come up with an actual script. You don't really know what to say. So ChatGPT is a great tool to be an assistance when it comes to things like social media. So we'll have ChatGPT generate a LinkedIn content calendar for us to follow. That way it can give us ideas and kind of just give us that nudge that we may need to start being active on social media. Because, Logan and I are two people that are very active on social media, and, it's been extremely beneficial to me. I'm sure it's been extremely beneficial to Logan. I've got to get to Logan's follower count sometime, because that's an impressive number there. But you've got me beat. I guess I could be closing in on TikTok, but
There
we'll
you
see.
go.
And then at the end, obviously, we're going to tell ChatGPT, you must ask us questions before generating your output. So if we want to hop on to the next slide, we can show what this would look like actually within ChatGPT, within the interface. So if you open up ChatGPT, and I also want to talk about this. I talk about this in all of my workshops, but I didn't put this slide in. If you have not used ChatGPT before, it's either chatgpt.com or chat.com on your web browser, or on the App Store, it's just ChatGPT, and it'll be a white logo. But I do want to make sure that if you're downloading the app, we are downloading the official OpenAI ChatGPT app. So it shouldn't be, an app with 1-star reviews and it has 300 of them. It should be the official OpenAI app with a white logo. It should have hundreds of thousands of 5-star reviews. And I always want to make sure I mention that, because there was a time that I got picked up by my Uber driver in Portland after a workshop, and he, asked me what I was doing out there. I said that I do AI workshops for companies, associations, and he said, "Oh man, you've got to download this app." And keep in mind, this was before ChatGPT had an official iPhone app, so I was already a little bit confused. And he's like, "Yeah, man, this ChatGPT app, you just have to pay $99 for lifetime access." And I'm like, "Oh man," I'm like, "Do I rain on this guy's parade and let him know that he just got scammed, or or do I just let it go and let it be a sunk cost?" So I decided to let him think that he had a win, because it was a sunk cost right there. But I do want to make sure to bring that up, because I would hate to be on here talking about ChatGPT just to have someone, go buy the app. It's free if you download it. It's free to make an account, but there is a paid version. So we took the prompt that we were just highlighting and we pasted it into the actual ChatGPT interface. So act as a social media expert. I work in commercial real estate and I'm looking for assistance with my LinkedIn presence. Please generate a LinkedIn content calendar for me to follow for the next 2 weeks. You must ask me questions before generating your output. Real quick, if we click the paperclip, that means you can upload a file. So if you want to upload an agreement, a contract, and you want to ask ChatGPT, are there any red flags here? Is there anything that I really need to pay attention to? That's a really good use case with ChatGPT. And then if you click the globe that's next to the paperclip, then that's when you can activate web browsing. So there used to be a knowledge cutoff for ChatGPT. And Logan, I'm sure you remember this back in the early days where you could ask it who won the last Super Bowl and it would have no idea because there was a knowledge cutoff and it didn't know. So now they've done a really good job of integrating web browsing capabilities, which is great. So you can go get industry specific news. You can go find, interest rates, all kinds of stuff like that now with web browsing. So if we will submit this prompt and would go to the next slide.
So on the web browsing distinction, when you're just using ChatGPT and not clicking on the web browser, is it not searching the web or is it still?
It can, but you kind of have to nudge it to and tell it to. So it will browse the internet, but there are also times where it won't and it'll just rely on its internal capabilities. So I've made the mistake of asking for an update on AI news of the day or AI news that happened over the last week. And I didn't enable web search and it pulled up stuff from like a year ago. And I was typing out my newsletter. And as I was reading my newsletter, I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah.
This has been out for a year. This has been out for 8 months. So it will do it if you nudge it in the right direction. But what they recently implemented a couple months ago was Search GPT, and that's what this globe is. And it's just better web browsing. So the AI will just conduct better research and navigate the internet much better than if you were to have it search the internet on its own.
Okay, awesome. All right, so we submitted our prompts now.
So we submitted the prompt and now we're going to get the questions from ChatGPT. So all of this stuff right here that you're seeing, all of these questions, all of this additional context is never anything that ChatGPT would have had if we didn't tell it to ask us questions. And that's why this step is so important with nearly any use case that you have, especially if you're having it generate something for you. Now, if you're having it review a contract, or you're uploading a PDF and you want to ask it a question, then sure, you may not have to incorporate this because it's just very straightforward. But if you're having it generate an email, a call script, if you're having it do an agreement, like a legal document maybe, this is a really good thing to incorporate because it asks for all of this additional context. So let's look at some of the questions it asks. What are your goals? Are you looking to attract more clients, establish yourself as an industry expert, or showcase your deals or projects? Do you want to prioritize engagement, brand awareness, lead generation? So these are all ways that ChatGPT can help us, kind of understand where we want to take this content. Are we just trying to get a bunch of likes and comments so we can get boosted in the algorithm? Are we trying to be consistent and post content about our career and what we've done? That way we can boost brand awareness. Are we trying to post about, our products, our services, what our company does? That way we can generate leads. So this is just another thing that showcases how important it is to include this step, because it helps you it helps ChatGPT understand which way to nudge you. And, we're having it generate a content calendar. So now it'll generate content that is more tailored to us. So then we can look at the target audience. Who's your primary audience? Is it investors, tenants, property managers, developers, other professionals? Do you have a specific geographic or market focus? So you could tell it that you do live in Kansas City, you do live in Los Angeles, you do live in New York, and maybe it can use city-specific things and incorporate that into your content calendar instead of it just being super basic. We can also go to content style. So do you want it to be, educational content, storytelling, promotional posts? Are you promoting your business or whatever you offer? And then we go down to number 4, and what's the current strategy? What are you doing right now? Are you just now getting started with social media? Do you have a solidified social media? That way it just understands, does it need to generate some content as if it's your first post ever and kind of inform your audience on who you are, what you do, what your offerings are? Or does it just need to, kind of hit the ground running and talk about whatever? So these are the first 4 questions we got. And then if we go to the next slide, we'll see a couple more. So we highlighted current strategy and then specific topics, visuals and tone. So those are 3 more things. These are 7 questions that ChatGPT asked us that it never would have asked us if we didn't tell it to ask us questions. So this is all additional context that we're giving ChatGPT more ammunition. That way we can get higher quality output. So for the sake of the demonstration, I just gave it 7 super simple answers. Whenever you're doing this, if you use this prompt, then obviously you'll give answers that are specific to your career, your business, your company. But then we can take a look at what ChatGPT's output would have been on the next slide here.
Okay.
So this is just a snippet of the first 2 things it gave us. So it's going to generate 2 weeks of content ideas for us. So Monday, a market snapshot. So you can share a brief analysis of current trends in your local or target CRE market. You can include a simple graph and a chart to illustrate. So instead of just going in and flying blind on trying to get your social media, presence, your personal brand kickstarted, you can lean on ChatGPT to have it give you that, initial push to, okay, this is what you can talk about. This is the type of image you can include. And then it also goes as far to include a call to action. So you could finish the post with, how are these trends affecting your investment decisions? And then you can have people respond to that. That way you can get that engagement going, maybe make some new connections, and maybe even get some more business. You could even take this a step further and do another follow-up prompt. And you could say, this topic for Monday is great. Please generate a professional post for me that I can use on LinkedIn. So now it's not only giving us the topic and helping us, guide and navigate through the social media journey, it can also write the actual post for us. So I've been super heavy on TikTok lately. And whenever I, wake up, I want to put out 2 videos a day. I'll go on to ChatGPT, I'll enable web browsing, and I'll say, what are the top AI stories of the day? I'll sift through them. It usually gives me 5 to 6. I'll choose the 2 that I want to post about, and then I have ChatGPT generate a script for those. So now I didn't really have to think too hard about the video topic, and I didn't even have to think too hard about, what am I even going to say? How do I say the right things? How do I cover this story and make sure that I'm not saying anything that's wrong? You can lean on ChatGPT. So this is just a really good way to show you, how in the actual interface that you can leverage ChatGPT to just lean on and kind of be your social media sidekick.
Yeah, this is really powerful stuff, man. This is really cool. I recognize it because I utilize it on a regular basis. But if you're not utilizing this, I mean, it is an enormous way to, 1, generate ideas and content, but 2, help break through limiting, what I'll say mindsets and like, hey, I can't figure this out, or I'm stuck. You just go start having a conversation with GPT. And then once you're unstuck, then you can get to this point of like implementation. So it's just really powerful. And I continue to call it like augmenting my own thinking. And it is making me a better thinker and much more efficient. So this is a great example of that.
Definitely. All right. So obviously, with AI being so new, with these language models being so new, we have to make sure we're protecting ourselves. So how do we do that? We want to make sure we're not uploading documents that contain sensitive financial information or any proprietary information. I feel like that goes without saying, and I feel like most people already understand that, but I just feel like that needs to be said. With these AI models, we just want to make sure we're protecting ourselves. Now, if your company has an enterprise AI, ChatGPT has an enterprise, Perplexity has an enterprise, Claude by Anthropic has an enterprise, then you have that enterprise grade security, and you can upload more sensitive financial documents and interact with them. But just when we're using a regular old ChatGPT, we just want to make sure we're protecting ourselves. We're so early on in this AI game with all of this new technology that we just want to mitigate the risk of, anything potentially bad happening. So there are still millions of use cases out there that don't require uploading a customer's social security number or, some sensitive financial information. So I always just want to make sure to touch on that. That way we can all protect ourselves.
Yeah, great point.
Yeah. So we can look at, how this stuff is actually being used in commercial real estate right now. So we talked about how we as users can use it as per the example that we just went through, how, an individual can use it to boost their personal brand, upload PDFs and interact with them, generate content schedules, all kinds of stuff like that. So some tools are being made and some companies and some buildings are implementing things like market forecasting. So you can see AI models are analyzing a bunch of data, They're analyzing current trends, and that can kind of just help with forecasting. And forecasting is beneficial in every industry, let alone CRE. So market forecasting is something that's been big. And then risk assessment. So like I said earlier, I work a lot with mortgage, and I know this is kind of becoming a hot use case there. With, again, predictive analytics, being able to assess, risk. And that's something that can be a time consuming process. So when we have all these softwares and all these AI tools coming out that can help companies, help individuals with stuff like this, it's always super beneficial. And then we can look at live valuations. So now we have AI tools. They're really becoming good with getting direct access to the internet, and they can sift the web. They can, crawl the web. They can do all of these things. So we look at live valuations. So there are some AI tools out there that can provide live property evaluations, analyzing, data, where it's located, the current trends, what are the specific characteristics of the property? What are the recent sales? How many times has it been sold? When was the last time it was sold? So this is just another way that, AI, and like we had touched on with ChatGPT implementing Search GPT, when AI is connected to the internet, that's when we get a ton of value, because research takes a long time when we're doing it manually. So if we can have AI do that for us, that's something that's super important. And I think there are going to be more and more AI tools out there that really start to sift the internet and, help everyone get that information. And there is a tool that I really like for specifically searching the internet, doing research and finding news. And I'll touch on that at the very end.
Okay, awesome.
And then lastly, we can look at automated lease analysis. And then we look, inside of buildings. So predictive maintenance, that's been a thing that has become really hot lately. Obviously, that's a big time saver. Helping property managers schedule maintenance, reduce that downtime, and extend the life of assets, obviously cutting costs. And that's what we're all trying to do here with AI. And then we look at tenant experience. So whenever, you're in an office building, or even if you're in an apartment, you want to enhance tenant experience. So you can do that with automation. A lot of these properties, offices are implementing AI powered chatbots. So instead of having to, ring the property manager and you can't get a hold of that person, you can have a chatbot, kind of like the custom GPT stuff we had talked about earlier, that is trained on all of the information about the property. So you can interact with that chatbot and ask it questions instead of having to directly talk to a property manager or someone that's on site. So that's where custom chatbots are really taking off. And I'm starting to see them all over all kinds of websites, because it's just a more efficient way to get answers.
Very powerful.
Absolutely. So then we can look here. This is kind of just a nice visual. And I would say where I've really seen a lot of benefit is property description. So we look at property descriptions. I talk with people after keynotes, after workshops, and I know that's been a huge time saver, having ChatGPT write that property description for you instead of you sitting down and doing it manually. Chatbots, we had just talked about that, about how they're being put on websites. They're being put, on inside of softwares for tenants to utilize. Marketing automation, scheduling LinkedIn posts. So back to our ChatGPT example, we could have ChatGPT generate 3 posts, and then we could schedule one for Wednesday, one for Monday, one for Wednesday, one for Friday. And then you really don't even have to hop back onto LinkedIn for that week, except for to check on how it's performing. And then we can look at content creation. Obviously, that's super beneficial. And, building social media, building personal brand is really powerful right now. So these are all ways that it's being used, and it's ways that I've seen people be successful with it as well.
Yeah, I would say I have used it for lease abstraction. I've used it for property description. I have not necessarily used chatbots, but on our leasing side for our multifamily, we utilize chatbots. So I guess it's chatbots. Marketing automation, it's definitely built out multiple marketing automation emails for me and helped me even with Active Campaign and other constant contacts on how to build those out. Data management automation. I don't know if I've used it on that side of things. Property appraisal. I've definitely used it for property valuations and investment, as well as content creation and contract summaries. So, I've used it for almost all of these, maybe other than data management and automation. So I think I'm doing a good job over here if I'm thinking about it. So now, one thing I have noticed with it is if you start uploading Excel documents and things like that, it can struggle, but we have to remember that it is a large language model. And so I have found and looked for other resources that is more data driven on that feedback. Now, I would imagine that ChatGPT is probably working on a way to become a more powerhouse on the numbers side of things. But for right now, for example, like I try to go out and export a bunch of property information and import it back in, and then import it in a bunch of my buyer criterion and said, hey, pick out the right properties from, that fit these criteria. And it just didn't work. I even tried to make my own custom GPT, but I think it's because it was such a large data set, many different tabs. It was very difficult for it to go. So maybe there's other resources on that front, but I'm excited about that potentiality in the future.
Yeah, 100%. And I had a friend text me the other day. He works at a company that has ChatGPT Enterprise, and he asked me that same question of the use case you just had. I was like, it's just not quite there yet.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll figure it out, but it's just not quite there. I do know there is a custom GPT where you can give it information and it turns it into an Excel file. But as far as interacting with Excel files, it's just that's definitely something they'll figure out relatively soon now.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
Yeah.
What are some of the other AI tools that you've messed around with and played with?
Yeah, so this is the last little piece of content that I want to leave everyone with. And I had touched on this a couple minutes ago regarding searching the web. Perplexity AI. So that is my go-to for searching the web. ChatGPT is great for having me generate things and upload, interact with PDFs, all kinds of stuff like that. But if I'm trying to search the web and get answers, I'm using Perplexity. So as an example, if we were to hop on Google, you would say, what's the cleanest source of caffeine? And it would give you a bunch of ads for Red Bull and energy drinks, and it would give you a bunch of articles that you'd have to read. Where if you hopped on Perplexity and said, what's the cleanest source of caffeine? It would search the internet for you. It would read all of those articles, read all of those case studies, and then it would generate a paragraph answer back to you. So instead of having to conduct the research yourself, Perplexity has done a really good job of building a tool that is your research assistant and crawls the web for you, gives you answers instead of providing you with links. Claude by Anthropic, essentially it's ChatGPT's biggest competitor, I would say. So I would just give it a try, see how you like the output. I would say Claude interacts more like a human. Like if you tell it something, I just closed this deal and now I need to generate this summary. It'll be like, wow, congratulations on closing the deal. Like it's very personable. So give Claude a shot. Microsoft Copilot. I'm sure some people out there have it, but it's more so of an AI that is built into PowerPoint, built into Word, built into Excel, built into your Outlook email. So that's a tool where AI is just directly integrated into all of your things. We look at Google Gemini, which is essentially another ChatGPT. They made a lot of improvements lately. I used to not be a big fan of that technology at all, but it's gotten pretty good. And then custom GPTs within ChatGPT. There's one called VoxScript where you can upload a YouTube video and it'll transcribe the entire video, and then you can ask questions. So essentially after this, once this is uploaded to YouTube, I could upload it to VoxScript and I could say, what were writers' top 5 recommendations as far as what people should do when using AI? And it'll give you that answer. So that's a really powerful tool. And then back to building custom GPTs, you can train it on PDFs. You can give it just written instructions on what it should do. So the sky's the limit with custom GPTs. They're only going to continue to improve. And so there's a lot more out there than just ChatGPT. ChatGPT is still reliable for me, but man, AI it's coming in hot and it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not. And the other two that I would just say is like these custom GPTs. If you go on, and everybody I've talked to, a lot of people I've talked to really like to listen to and digest Andrew Huberman's information. However, 3 to 4 hours of talking about one thing in great detail is really somewhat tough. So he's got his own, or somebody has built his own GPT that is hosted, I think, on his website. It's like Huberman.ai or something, and it is super powerful because then it will go give you the links to the podcast, the videos, and shows you where to go dive in more. And I'm a beta tester right now for Ray Dalio's Ask Digital Ray, and he's got all of his custom. He's got a custom GPT that's built. And if you ask it questions, it will respond with principles from his book and give you feedback. So I don't know if those are actually integrated into ChatGPT yet, but they might be separate, web links that I have to go to. But in the time being, like, it's really interesting to see these thought leaders building their own custom GPTs. And wow, yeah, the power is there, and the possibilities are endless. Ryder, do you have, I know we're over time, but do you have a few minutes for some questions that we've received?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we've kind of gone through some practical applications of how AI tools like ChatGPT are being used, but the question I often get is like, how is it actually going to change the real estate industry, right? And my response always is, it's not necessarily going to change how real estate is transacted at this point, because if we break that down to the fundamentals, that is still signing contracts, negotiating, but it definitely can augment those processes, right? And so when you get asked, how is AI going to change the industry? How do you respond to that?
Absolutely. And it's not a super exciting answer, but I think it's just going to make everything more efficient, and it's going to cut down on all of the busy work. So all of the monotonous, annoying tasks, as we move forward in AI, that type of stuff is just going to start to get eliminated. So what is cool is, as human beings, we'll be able to focus on those relationships, because relationships are everything. And that's something that AI isn't going to take away from. I've heard some people say that in the future, everyone will have their own AI assistants, and then they'll interact with each other instead of people interacting with each other. I completely disagree. And I think, in an industry like this, that human touch is always needed. And I don't think that's anything that's going to go away. So long story short, I think just the busy work, the monotonous, stuff that's done all the time, the super repetitive tasks, I just think that's going to get cleaned up so we can focus on the more specific, important things.
Beautiful. All right, last question. So we haven't talked about GoBananas. So what is it that you are doing within this industry? I mean, you mentioned that you're not necessarily building your own AI, or maybe you are, but it's more of an application to the businesses that you're working with. Is that a correct statement?
Yeah. So a lot of businesses are just flying blind right now with AI. They either don't let their workers use it because they're just scared of it. They don't understand the security. They don't understand the value of it. So we do a lot of Chat GPT workshops. So we'll come in at kind of a lot of what we did today, but we'll go even further and do use case demonstrations. So I think I've always been a visual learner, and I've always learned by doing. So when I can put a use case up on the board and have everyone do it, I think that's when the learning really gets enhanced. So ChatGPT workshops, helping companies understand what's out there. And then also for the companies that really want enhanced security, we will build custom internally hosted AI models for businesses. So that way you don't have to go to a ChatGPT. You don't have to go to a Google's Gemini. You can have your own internally hosted AI model that you can upload all of your documents to.
Yeah, I imagine that's probably a big concern for a lot of large businesses, the amount of information being shared through a Chat GPT. And it's why, like my wife's firm, VML, they have built their own internal GPT and AI resource that they utilize. And I think that is a continued trend. One of the biggest takeaways that I had today is really that continuous learning is always going to be the most important thing for people in business, because as the industries change and shape and evolve, we have to be adapting to the people that we are serving. And the ability to utilize AI across multiple processes and streamline efficiencies on the operations side is how I'm seeing it be beneficial. Not only that, I used AI to completely, plan a travel vacation for my wife and I without me having to search for hours on Google. I let it go do it and popped out a Word document and send it to my wife. And she's with multiple places to get reservations from, where to stay, things to do. And I tell you what, the applications are really endless. And frankly, if you're just having a tough day and you're like, man, I could really use a motivational quote or something like that I'm going through right now that could really help me, I pop on there all the time and just have a little conversation with it. So it's a lot of fun. It's very powerful. I'm seeing a lot of benefit. And Ryder, thank you so much for showing us in the commercial real estate space many different use cases on how to utilize this. If people want to find out more about you, like let's say they're a brokerage company and they're like, wow, this sounds great, and we really need to bring Ryder in to kind of train us up. How do they reach out to you, and how does that process work?
Yeah, absolutely. So our website is just super simple. It's GoBananas.AI. And then I try to be super active on LinkedIn. So feel free to connect with me. And then also just DM me if you have any questions. If you want to know more use cases, if there's something coming up with ChatGPT that you didn't think I covered today, that's awesome. And then on TikTok at RyderGPT. That nice little AI username right there. I try to do 1 or 2 posts a day, whether it's use cases, it's other AI tools that are out there, it's AI news, all kinds of stuff like that. I just try to be a resource that everyone can have that can help educate them on this, this crazy tech wave that we're on right now, because it's really hard to navigate.
Absolutely. Well, Ryder, again, thank you for joining. Thank you for, I had many people messaging me beforehand, talking to me about how excited they were. I know there was a lot of value given in this talk, in this episode. So appreciate your time and thoughtfulness and your expertise, man. Excited for what's to come for you. If you're in Kansas City on December 5th, so I guess that's next week, next Thursday, come see me at the Contractors, Closers, and Connections Holiday Kickoff event from 5 to 9. Out at SCI off of Shawnee Mission Parkway. This is going to be a large event. 200 to 400 people likely will be there, and it is not cheap to come. So that is a reason that they are very valuable. It's not just a place where you're going and getting a bunch of business cards and cornered, and it's just not fun. We have great food, great music, great drinks, great people for you to connect with, and I'm excited to be there. So hopefully you can come out and we can meet and talk real estate, AI, whatever on December 5th. And if you've liked what you've heard today, make sure to follow us on LinkedIn. Follow us on the social medias here, as well as if you are a property owner interested in understanding how we are utilizing AI in our underwriting, in our proposals, as well as what we're calling our property performance audits, please do reach out to me. I've got 4 or 5 of those going right now. Our spot's filled up, but I'm sure now that I've made this a little more streamlined through AI that I could probably take on a few more clients, and many, many transactions are going to happen between now and the end of the year. We're gearing up for a really, really strong 2025. So you can reach out to us at exchangecre.com. Follow me on LinkedIn, find me there. And thanks again for tuning in. Ryder, we appreciate you. We thank you for the work that you're doing. If you want to go follow him, he's on TikTok. He's a star over there, as well as LinkedIn, and it's GoBananas.AI. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks, and have a phenomenal Thanksgiving. Ryder, thank you again.
Thanks, Logan. Appreciate it.